There we go. Thank you so much. I was like having such a hard time figuring it out. I don't know why. But thank you, Em. All right. Thank y'all for y'all patient with this. All right, before I get into the nitty-gritty of the training today, I just want to say, well, I understand that this topic, especially surrounding advocacy, it might be something that is a little touchy for most folks who are in the space with us, especially given the climate of not just what's happening in the world, but what's happening in our country. We want you to know that our team effort and our intention is not to make you feel as if like this training is supposed to overwhelm you or to dis minimize or belittle what's happening, but more so to help you feel as if like the tools that we are seeking to provide today is something that you can utilize to be in solidarity and in community with your community as well as yourselves as you navigate these times. We don't have the answer to everything, so this training is not going to be the answer to what is going on in our country. But I hope and our hope is that like whatever you gain and walk away from today through this training is something that will help you as you find ways to be in solidarity and utilize your art to continue to be the amazing advocates and creatives that you all are. So thank you again for joining. Please feel free throughout this session if you have questions to use the raise hand features or to put them in the chat and I will do my best to acknowledge them. All right, I'm going to get us started with the training. Uh, Today training is called Art and Democracy, where we are and where we're going. And we wanted to tailor it like that because Advocacy Week is such a huge deal to us here in Massachusetts and especially at Mass Creative. For those of you who do not know what the Creative Advocacy Week Sector Day is or haven't been familiar with our org and how we organize it, it is a week dedicated to showing the vibrancy, impact, and beauty of the creative sector here in Massachusetts. Our goal is to make sure that this day is dedicated and committed to artists being exactly what you all are, amazing people who make beautiful art in whatever capacity that you do so. So, a huge part of Advocacy Week is Advocacy Day that we have at the Massachusetts State House, which is going to be hosted in March of this year. So, Advocacy Week will be from March 2nd through March 3rd, March 6th, and then March 3rd will be Advocacy Day. That Tuesday is going to be at the State House, the Massachusetts State House. Links and more information will be dropped in the chat. If you have not yet registered for Advocacy Week, or Advocacy Day at the State House, please register. We love seeing your beautiful faces on that day. We have amazing talents who are going to be sharing their arts, talents, and creative expression with us on that day. So please join us in not just celebrating that, but advocating alongside us. Another part of Advocacy Day is ensuring that we create the opportunity for you all to feel empowered to be able to have conversation with your legislators and representative. A lot of them favorite day is that day because they do look forward to having artists from in their constituents from their individual communities come to the state house and have conversation with them, but also just share some of the arts that happens in their backyard with the members with their fellow members at the state house. So today training will focus on like some of the basics. It's our hope is that once the training is concluded, you can walk away with a better understanding of the different governmental tiers, a deeper understanding of advocacy, especially in Massachusetts, some key priorities for Advocacy Week 2026, and then an opportunity to kind of see and engage about how you can incorporate what you learned today into everyday practices. This training is part one. There is going to be a part two that is going to be hosted next week. So everything will not be covered today, but if you have follow-up training that won't be covered in the part two, I'm more than happy to answer them at a later time. So with that being said, let me get a little deeper into it. We usually start our training with just ensuring that we all are operating with the same understanding of like what advocacy is. Advocacy is not a one shoe fit all. So how we identify or define advocacy here at Mass Creative is asking for what you want. Simple as that. Anytime anyone can be an advocate, anytime there is an issue or something that is going to be positively impactful impactful for their community, that they feel empowered to ask someone who can create a change for it, that is an advocacy move. So asking for what you want. And then we try to also identify for you all what is organizing. As an organizer myself, I feel like there were so many times in the past when I would be doing organizing work, but I didn't know that's what I was doing. So we always try to ensure that you all have an understanding of like how your work that you do in community now can be defined. So we define organizing here at Mass Creative as building community power to ask for what we want. So, where advocacy is asking for what you want, organizing is usually like centered around a collective action and a collective power, and collectively knowing how to ask for what we want. And then we also try to ask the question of like what is coalition building? Because sometimes I think those three kind of are similar, but they are very different. So how we define coalition building here is making sure every voice and every story is represented and asking for what we want. So those are the three basic ways you can identify and understand just like the advocacy structures that we try to operate here at Mass Creative, to ensure that like when folks join us in not just the work that we're doing, but when you all ask us to join you in the work that you all are doing, we all are operating with the same definitions. Right. So some other things that I like to try to explain. When folks engage with Mass Creative, oftentimes like they don't understand if we work at the state level or local level. I always try to break that down a little bit, and also like I know that like in times like this, like I mentioned at the beginning, there is so much happening in our country, and there are times when we want to do more. And understanding how doing more can happen is extremely crucial to your advocacy work. So there obviously are three tiers of government that we all know, which is the executive, judicial, and legislative. Executive is the president, legislative is Congress, and then judicial is the Supreme Court. We do not operate directly within these tiers of government, but we want you all to understand that like there are different tiers that are operating that you can engage with. Like for example, all of us should start becoming familiar with who our Congress representatives are, and how we can write them letters, set up meetings with them, and have conversation with them where they can give us a little bit more clarity on what's happening and how our community can respond in real time. And a lot of the time, they look forward to receiving messages and requests like that, because they also want to make sure that they're in community with you all, calming any anxiety and giving you the information as truth as possible without much misinformation spreading around. So once you understand how to connect or those three branches, we like to try to define them a little bit more by letting you see how the federal level works versus the state and the local. Today, training is mostly going to focus on state and local because that is how Mass Creative operates. We operate by advocating for you all on for at the state level, directly engaging with the governor, state representative, and state senators, and then at the local level, directly with different mayors, city council, town managers, town officials. These are who our primary focuses are on. Again, the federal level is not the level that we typically would work on unless we are working in coalition with different partners. But federal level would be your congressional representative and senators that I mentioned that you can reach out to at any point in time. If you are looking to get a little bit more understanding of what's happening federally. But what we try to do as well is that one huge representative bodies that can represent you at the federal level or connect with you with what's happening federally and give more perspective is your state government. Your state representatives and senators are ideal people for you to reach out to on any given time to have the necessary conversation with, who can relay that information back to your federal representative or set up time for them to collaborate with your federal representative to be able to have the important conversations. The other important thing about ensuring that you are focusing on state and local is that across the country, like laws are implied differently in different states and in different local government. So it's important that you all are understanding how things are operating in your backyard and that you're focusing on engaging with your direct representative in your state and local level, because that's how real change happen. For many of us who organize or who do advocacy work, we will tell you that creating partners and allies in the state house, in your city government, is super, super crucial to the work that we do, because we may not be able to address our congressional representative often, and there's very slim chances where we would get to ever engage with the executive branch, but we know who our state representatives are. We know who our state senators are. We Most of us know who our town manager or our mayor are. We can go to city hall. We can engage with chiefs of different departments. We can talk to town officials. It's just a little bit easier to focus on the state and local level to try to make a bigger impact, because we are directly voting for those people and they are directly making decisions that affect our day-to-day life. So oftentimes the way to have impact federally is to also be focusing on what's happening in your backyard on the state and local level. All right. Here's some example of how when we focus our collective power and our collective ability in the state and local level, we actually do tend to make a lot of really great impact. For example, marriage equality in Massachusetts became legal in 2004, and the healthcare reform in 2006 was passed in Massachusetts. And then recently, a project that I was really proud to work on, the Fair Share Amendment ballot initiative in 2022, are issues that collective action in the state of Massachusetts has been able to have passed, where in different states that's not necessarily the case. We know that like our brothers and sisters across the aisles are not necessarily seeing the same impact that we see here when it comes to the Fair Share Amendment or like marriage equality or healthcare reform. So making sure that our state continue to lead by example in holding our state officials and local officials accountable to being great representative is how we make really huge impact like this happen. I'm gonna take a pause here. I want to do a temperature check to make sure that like if there are any questions that folks have, I can answer them before I jump a little deeper into the training. So are there any questions so far? Please feel free to use the raise hand features or to drop them in the chat and my team will flag for me. And if there is a issue with pace as well, I'm happy to slow down to ensure that like you all are able to gather as much information as possible. And greatly enough, Emily's dropping a lot of resources and links in the chat. So if you are looking to see if you are looking and trying to figure out who your state and federal representative are, there's a link for that in the chat. There's some other links that she's dropping for Creative Advocacy Sector Week for you all to be able to register for it if you haven't registered for it. Right. I'm not seeing any pressing questions in the chat or any raised hands, so I'm gonna move us along to the next part. Again, like at any point in time, if you have questions, just raise your hand or drop it in the chat. Okay. So why does focusing your advocacy effort in what's going on in your backyard important? By your backyard, I mean the state and local level. It's really important to demonstrate what our united strength looks like, especially to our state and local officials. I always say that like the easiest way to have impact is at the ballot, but not just at the ballot, but after the ballot, engaging with your elected officials. For many folks who believe that, you know, once you go out to vote, the work is done, that is just a small part of what it takes to actually have collective impact. Ensuring that you're engaging with your elected officials on advocacy days, showing up to testify at the state house, writing letters, making calls, going to coffee hour, office hours. Those are all crucial part of what it takes to make real impact in real time in your in the state and local level. Another reason why it matters, it lists for priority areas we want decision makers to consider. especially in the arts. A huge thing for us is ensuring that like we have level funding yearly, and that like some of the crucial policies that Mass Creative bring forth are visible and top of mind for a lot of the legislators. Annually, they get a lot, not annually, biannually, they get a lot of bills introduced to them. So if everybody just introduce these bills and do not advocate for them to move forward to the next steps, oftentimes those do get left behind. So it's super crucial that you just not saying that I want this to become a law or that I want to have level funding, but you showing up and you have the necessary conversation and you're giving testimony and showing why receiving funding and having them invest in the art is important. Positioning ourselves for the end of the legislative session is a part of what I was trying to touch on with my last point regarding what it means for us to be able to have the collective power when we testified and have conversation with legislators and making sure that our issues and our priorities are top of mind for them and that they know that like okay the sector is not going to silently sit by while we debate the this year budget, but they also want us to think about them as we consider like what does funding in the art look like and how do we make an investment in the art that's going to keep Massachusetts vibrant, beautiful, in a place that people not only want to visit but wants to live in. Creates opportunity to welcome new advocates into our work. Our job here is to make sure that like we are the tools that make you all feel empowered to go have great impact in your communities. Like we want our work to feel replicable to you all. We want what we share with you all, the resources that we set up for you all, are things that are digestible and are easy to follow and are easy to implement. So we hope that like some of the resources that are being dropped in the chat, you get to check them out and that we all collectively are figuring what the best practice, share practice, resource knowledge, and experience sharing is. We don't want to feel like we are the one that knows best and that you all should just follow us. Like if you have suggestions and you have ideas that make sense that you want to connect with us about and you want to implement in your individual communities, we want to do that work with you. So we hope that like as you all are showing up to future events, trainings, and engaging with our team, you feel as if like this team is creating space for you to equally be a part of the work. Okay, some foundation of advocacy for the arts. So there are a few ways that we like to ensure that you all understand like what advocating for the art looks like, especially in Massachusetts. There's self-advocacy, community advocacy, and legislative advocacy. You're going to often hear us discuss the legislative advocacy piece because it's a huge part of what we do here. So for the purpose of today's training, I'm going to mainly focus on the legislative part of the three. And then for part two training, I'm going to look more in depthly into like what self-advocacy can look, feel, and sound like, and as well as what community advocacy can feel like. So for legislative advocacy, it's a we again like it's mostly state and local. So that is been making sure that you are creating relationship with your mayor and city manager, which is the head of municipal government. You want to know who your mayor is, you want to know who your town manager is, because eventually those people will make decision about who your chief of art and culture is or who runs what department, and you want to be able to have the necessary influence and conversation with them as voters so they are aware of when how their decision is impacting different individuals in the community. You also want to know who your state representative and senator are. Think about the committee that they are on. For example, one of our partner, one legislator we often partner with and we have great relationship with here at Mass Creative is Senator Paul Mark, who we know when we have a piece of legislation that who serves on the art and culture and tourism, who serve on the art, culture, and tourism committee. We know that like when we have pieces of legislation that we want to introduce and advocate and just have a partner and a collaborator with in the state house, like we often connect with him and we connect with his team. A huge pro tip is that like when you connect with a legislator team They are just as impactful as connecting with the legislator because they are super experienced and knowledgeable on just how to like support a nonprofit and individual advocates like ourselves. So those are the folks that we often try to encourage you all to know, especially like when it comes to election season and when you are seeing folks on the ballot and they're making promises about like what their platform is going to be. You can hold them a little bit more accountable as well to like if they have a strong art and culture policy platform. And you could help inform the art and culture policy platform when you create those meaningful relationship with them. Okay. So, what does legislative advocacy look like? Knowing who your elected officials are, what they care about, um, rating your relationship with them. So we think about we say rate your relationship with them. One is like I voted for them, but I don't really know them. I either voted or didn't vote for them, and so I don't really know them. Three is like I'm fairly comfortable with them, but I would like to engage a little bit more with their office, or I've engaged with their staff and I'm more comfortable with them. And then a five is like their staff and the legislator themselves know exactly who I am. They know the work that I do. They know the impact that I look to make in my community. We have partners that we work with who are a five, and then we have partners who are a three and a one. No matter where you are in the journey, our goal is to try to continue to be partners to you and to make you feel comfortable and make you feel like you can go from a one to a five, and you could stay at a five, and now you could go from a three to a five. When you are honest and are able to identify where you are in your journey, it's a little easier for us to help cultivate the necessary relationship as well. Another way that we define like legislative advocacy here is like cultivating plans to ensure that like the ways which you engage with your legislators make sense. We don't want it to feel as if like we are throwing you at the wolves, and that you don't feel prepared. So like sometime we'll go as far as supporting like making an introduction and helping you figure out how to invite them to events that you're organizing and facilitating in your community. And then like what feels like the important data and stories to share with them. I think sometimes people feel a little overwhelmed of knowing that like what will my legislator care about? They care about everything. If there is a way to make your quality of life in their district better, like as a constituent, they want to hear from you about what that is. So there's no such thing as like oversharing. So our we have draft like languages that could help you figure out how to reach out to your legislators, and we also happy to work with you if there are some nerves and there are some things that you want to discuss but you don't know what the languaging necessarily is. Okay, how you can make a difference. This upcoming advocacy week, we want you all to feel bold. We want you to feel empowered, and we want you to make some meetings happen. We want you all to reach out to your legislators, ask them for a meeting, and like make it a priority to advocate for level funding for Mass Cultural Council to receive level funding this legislative budget, because when they get level funding, you all are often receiving the funding that you need to continue the beautiful work that you do here in the Commonwealth. Another thing is advocating for advancing the creative sector legislative agenda. Emily just dropped a link in our chat that will tell you the three bills that Mass Creative is currently, two bills, one bill.
I didn't drop I'll drop that in the chat in a moment.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I seen the head shake and I was just like, which bills? Like, I'm like, I'm like, how out of touch am I? But she's going to drop the link to our legislative agenda that will tell you the bills that we are currently advocating for, and that which legislators already support them. You'll see who's sponsoring, who hasn't sponsored, where you can also reach out to their office. If you are in a legislative district who is not mentioned on our bill, you could reach out to them and have conversation with them about the bill, why you support the bill. A lot of time it's as simple as saying like I support this bill because I know if it becomes a law, it will have this impact on me. So that's what supporting the creative sector legislative agenda can sound and feel like. And then bridging the gap between legislators and their constituent is like the hugest part for us when it comes to how we make sure that we minimize any discomfort that is there. We want you all to feel as though like I can ask my legislators to have a to come to a coffee hour with us and talk about the art, and they will show up, and they will show up ready to listen, ready to share, and ready to make a difference. That part is super, super crucial to us. So as we are helping you all, as we all like providing resources in the chat, and we are helping you out, if you are thinking I want to host something this advocacy week, I want to make sure that like my legislators are paying attention to what's happening in my individual community, with my with different artists and different live experiences that's happening, we ask that you loop us in. We are super excited this year to like try to help out and see like as many different communities as possible across the Commonwealth organize their own individual things. So if you all are interested in hosting something, we want you to use the link that was one of the links that was dropped that I will redrop again to register your event and tell us what it is that you want to host and how Mass Creative can help. Again, we don't want you to feel as if like we're telling you to just, do an activity and figure it out. We want to figure out how we can help. One huge way we often help is like, can we help with making sure the event has a great turnout? Can we amplify your event to make sure that the constituent in your base is able to hear about what you are doing? Two, if you are trying to reach out to legislative offices and they're not responding, can we be a part of bridging that gap and getting your legislators to the event? And then like if there are other like if you're trying to set an agenda and you're trying to make sure the conversation flow, trying to figure out which other advocates or partners should I be inviting to the table to have these important dialogues? We want to know. We would love. We can help in that capacity as well. So like our work, it is impactful and it's successful because of the fact that we have so many collaborators and coalition partners who are constantly joining us in this work. And we want you to feel as if like when you are doing something that is impactful in moving the agenda of the art in your community forward, that Mass Creative is a part of that work, and we are partners to you all who can help make things move a little bit smoother in the right direction. All right, so that is where I'm going to take a pause for today in regards to the training for the 101 training. Again, there is going to be a second part that we host next week that's going to go a little bit more in depth about what self, community, and legislative advocacy can look and feel like. That training is going to be more example based. Like, for example, when we talk about self advocacy, what does that look, sound, and feel like in community advocacy? What are some creative ideas that you can do? The resources that you need to have impact are yourselves in your community. So you already have those two things. We just want to help you figure out how to utilize them the right way. So I'm gonna take a pause here to answer any questions or anything and address anything that you see that we miss in this session to make sure that you all feel confident if you are joining us for the second session, or if you won't be joining us for the second session but will be joining us at Advocacy Week. We want to make sure that you feel confident about that as well. So Emily, I see a hand raised. I'm going to stop sharing screen really quickly and welcome you to join the dialogue.
Thank you, Richleen. And my goodness, Richleen, thank you so much for walking us all through this. I want to address a question that came up in the chat and also just sort of place us all in the moment we are in terms of state level advocacy and policy change. So first of all, as some of you may know, we work on a 2-year legislative session. So the legislature works for 2 years. They are elected for 2 years. And we are now, 2026 is the second year of their legislative session. So if the first year is about introducing bills and making sure they all have hearings, the second year is about getting those bills, seeing which bills are going to get passed. Each year, regardless of the session year, the legislature and the governor puts together and passes an annual state budget. And next week, the 2026 budget process will kick off when the governor releases her version of the budget. So she starts it off just like the Super Bowl. She kicks it into the other, into the other side, and then we're off. So some things to keep in mind. We have been told repeatedly that this is an incredibly difficult budget year. We have heard this from our allies inside the State House. We've heard this from budget and fiscal policy analysts outside the State House. We've heard it from our colleagues in other issue areas. The reason is that the federal government is abdicating its responsibility from funding the things that are most important. Health insurance, keeping our families and our kids fed, the list goes on. Education. So our state government, which has consistently led on things like healthcare and keeping kids fed, is committed to making sure that we can continue to do that as much as possible. However, so that is things like last week we saw leadership of the legislature and the governor announce a plan to try to support and backfill lost money to keep people on health insurance in Massachusetts. However, the phrase they keep repeating is, we do not have enough money to backfill everything the federal government is taking away. So that means that when we are looking at the fiscal year 27 budget, because they're working on the 27 budget, they're going to have a lot of tough choices to make. This is the moment where we need to be thoughtful about what we're asking for, right? We don't want to walk in and be like, you should triple the investments to the arts and cultural sector in this moment, because that's going to feel out of step with what the realities are that they are dealing with. We also aren't going to say, by all means, cut our funding, we'll figure it out. That we're not going to say that either. So while we don't have an exact number, we don't know what the Mass Cultural Council is going to request yet. We are preparing ourselves for probably two possibilities: advocating for a small increase or advocating and defending for level funding. Okay. This is the first year in a number of years, I believe since 2021, where there is the real possibility we will not see an increase to the largest state line item related to arts and culture, which is the Mass Cultural Council budget. That's not because we aren't working hard. It isn't because we're not ambitious. It isn't because we're not effective at our collective and shared advocacy. It is a reality of the moment we are in. And so next week, you can mark your calendars. At the end of next week, we will have released a sign-on letter. We hope you will all join and sign on and have all of your organizations and creative small businesses sign on, that makes a request to the leadership of the House and the Senate legislatures, state legislatures, around what we feel is an appropriate budget amount for the Mass Cultural Council, for our investments in our libraries. We're working with our colleagues in the library space, and we're also working to work with our colleagues in the tourism and marketing space, right? So that we can have a collective combined ask that says, this is what this sector is asking for this year. So those are some of the sort of the pieces that are on the board as we know them right now and that we are considering. Again, this is why we are really, really encouraging you to engage as much as possible in local and state level activities, because even if we are talking about, we should not assume that we will just get level funding. This could be a cut year, right? And so we need to turn out and turn up and make sure that our elected officials know we're paying attention, as Rocheline said, that we have good news stories to share with them that justify why we should be funding arts, culture, and creativity in Massachusetts, and that we are their partners. We are continuing to work on this together. So that I just want to make sure that is clear, and that feels like hopefully a little roadmap that we can all use in this next chapter.
Does anyone have any question regarding the slides or anything that Emily just shared with us?
I would like to add, this is Tracy, artist in the South Coast, ED with Frack and Fall River. I think Emily's point is something that's really been haunting me a little bit, is the appropriateness of of what we ask for in the moment. And I just really appreciated that because I can get pretty emotional about what's happening, as I think we all can. And when you're asking for things, yeah, like people need housing and insurance and all of these things that take precedence, but this is also very important not to let fall to the wayside. And yeah, I appreciate the kind of regulation of what to expect and what to ask for. So it's very helpful.
Thank you, Tracy. And the goal too is that like we want to make it easy for you all to know like how to go about what to ask for. So just know there are guides and there are ways that you can connect with us to make sure that like we all are on the same page and that like the legislators are hearing a unified voice. Like Emily said, like when the sign-on letter is out next week, we hope you all are able to add your names on there to just show that like the sector is paying attention and that we are collectively know what is needed at this time. So, anybody else have any other questions?
Where can we find the recording of this meeting? So if I want to go over it and review it again.
Yeah, great question, Tom. Once this meeting is wrapped up, our amazing Director of External Relation will take a swing at cleaning it up, and then she will post it up on our website. It should, if you go to the tab that says Advocacy Week, you should be able to see the recording once she wraps up with it.
Thank you.
In soft as well, sorry, excuse me. She will also like send it via email as well. Usually all of the past recording trainings are within our email communication um by end of month, our monthly newsletter. So if you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe to our newsletter. That is one of the best way to stay informed. That's actually like the last slide I want to share with you all. Excuse me, on how to get in touch and stay in touch with MASSCreative. So if you are somebody who visits our websites often, please feel free to subscribe to our newsletter. Kelsey and Anissa does an amazing job at keeping you all updated via our newsletter. You could also follow our social media page. There is a lot of information that is often posted on our social media to keep you all up to date as well. As a true Gen Z, I often find my information out through social media and then I have to verify it. So please pay attention to our social media and give us a follow. You can always reach out to our amazing executive director, Emily Reddick. And then, of course, if you have a general inquiry, you can reach out to our info at email address. And we are often really responsive with through the info at email address. Right. Any other questions for me today or for us, I shall say? If you all don't have much else, any questions or any comments to share, I want to say thank you so much for joining. Again, next week training, which I keep mentioning but haven't given a date for yet, is going to be on the 27th. Please join us then as well. If you haven't registered, you could register via our website. We appreciate your partnerships. We look forward to the amazing events that you curate for Advocacy Week, but we are even more excited to see your beautiful faces on March 3rd at the State House. Remember, the more of us that is there, the more unified we look and the more impact that we can have. So thank you all for joining this afternoon. I'm going to give you all 17 minutes of your lunchtime hour back, and we look forward to talking to you all in the near future. Bye, everybody.
Have a good day. Have a good day,
You as
everyone.
well.
Thank you.